It's Guild Ball Tonight, your independent source for Guild Ball news, information, and conversation.
Episode 24 for November 4th, 2015.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Guild Ball Tonight podcast. Now, I'm your host, Phil.
And this is Bill.
And we are here once again to talk about Guild Ball and all things Guild Ball related. So, what do we have in this week's show? Well, of course, we are going to be starting with the news, as is often the case. We've got new releases, we've got new third-party products, we've got forum news, we've got lots of things to talk about. Then we'll check in on some events that we personally will be at. Following that, we are going to have a conversation about running a Guild Ball tournament, since it is a topic of great interest and impact for both of our efforts of late. We thought we would sort of consolidate our thinking on the topic, as well as share it with all of you to maybe hopefully help take some of the mystery and suspense out of running an event and make you feel more comfortable with doing so yourself. Then we are going to have the interview for this show is actually going to be with one of the character creators about the process of creating his likeness in miniature. And then after all of that, we will, of course, wrap up with our feedback segment, where we answer some questions provided by the community for us to discuss. So, let's go ahead and get started with the news. So, the big item this week, I would probably say, is that we have 2 new Season 2 miniatures out and about and in people's hands and getting painted. So, Compound and Chi-zel. What do you think, Bill?
Now, have you gotten either of yours yet?
No, the shipment has not come in down at the store. I am waiting patiently. It does give me time to finish those last 2 Season 1 miniatures that I still need to paint, if nothing else.
So that's good, because I have 15 Season 1 miniatures left to paint. But that was because of a painting project I had to get done for Halloween. So, So what do I think of chiseling Compound? I have the Alchemist. They're one of those sets of models I still have to paint, so I haven't played them yet. So I chose not to order Compound. Yeah, now, that said, he was at the top of my list of the 4 Season 2 models to order, simply because he would be the first guild keeper that would be coming for a see, I don't know how to describe this. Now that I have all but one faction, I technically have, a need for everybody, but Alchemist was one of my initial choices. So Fishermen and Butchers were not in my initial choice. I have them now. I'm very happy to have them, plan on playing them, yada, yada. But, this would be the first goalkeeper that actually fits into one of my initial choice teams. But they're also at the back end of the teams I was going to play from the Season 1 teams.
Right. And see, I'm the exact opposite. Masons, Engineers, and Alchemists were my first 3 teams on the list, the ones I've played the most. And so these 2 figures are very high on my to-do list. They'll probably jump right to the head of the queue as soon as I finish with the Season 1 stuff, because I still am holding firm to my commitment to not paint the Season 2 figures until after I have finished the Season 1 figures. So I am looking forward to them. I think I can say I'm looking forward to Chi-zel a bit more. I really like that miniature. And the
paint jobs I've seen on are fantastic.
Oh, I know. Everybody is really taking this painting contest seriously this time. Both of those miniatures have had really amazing paint jobs coming. I mean, nothing I can compete with. Now, Compound, I'm really looking forward to painting. Not as much playing. Compound is a you know, there's that weird, that expression, you know, he asks questions, and unfortunately I don't think I have those answers. You know, like I've seen Tenderizer in play a couple of times and been wildly impressed with him once and wildly unimpressed with him once. But what impressed me the most about Tenderizer was not his goalkeeping. It was how brutal he can be as a midfield player, and in the right scenario, which he got himself into and sort of devastated my team.
Interesting.
Now, and the other problem is that if I'm playing Alchemists, I'm generally doing a speed build, and he does not fit into that mold. And you know, my objective is to score faster than you. So is a goalkeeper where I'm going?
No. Okay. So there's a good question there. Cause in my mind, I know nobody's going to believe this, but you and I haven't really talked about how to play Alchemists. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, that was what the Alchemist excelled at. A speed scoring build that can also do a little bit of effects just to slow things down, but really just as a delaying tactic.
Right.
And when I looked at Compound, he, to me, lit right up because I feel like I can always afford one player to sit back and do something else.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and having him back, slowing down your scoring while I'm hammering in goals, hopefully, seems like a good play to me.
Well, here's my problem with Compound is, especially if you compare him to Tenderizer, is that Compound messes up your activation order because Compound does not have a passive goal defense ability. He does have Rush Keeper, but where Tenderizer has his ability that anytime he's within 4 inches of the goal, the difficulty is raised by 1. That is a trait for Tenderizer. Now, Compound's sort of goalkeeping ability is a character play.
Yep.
So
you have to put it up.
Right. So if you want him to be at his best as a goalkeeper, you need to sacrifice an early activation for it. That is a tactical nuance to Compound that makes him really lose a few points of esteem for me. Because generally speaking, now I don't play engineers often or well enough to sort of mentally compute where exactly he's fitting into that lineup. I know that, you know, as that is, the engineers are a team that really excel at goal scoring defense already. And he probably fits very well into that team because I can see that being a team where the first activation is not as important because they have the advantage of range. They have the advantage of being able to sort of compress the size of the board because they have range. He may fit better into that team where he's messing with your activation order. But in the Alchemists, you know, let's put a caveat there. We don't know what the season 2 alternate build Alchemists are going to feel like. He may fit into that team very well because they may be more of a reactive team. But in the sort of run and gun Midas plus the Union Alchemist team, it's going to be really hard to make the decision to throw Compound's goal scoring ability up before Midas or Vitriol's clone, which is really the decision that you're making. So he's a harder player to fit into that team. You know, if you're looking at the team of Midas, Flask, Vitriol, Hemlock, and Snakeskin, you know, just off the top of my head, plus Compound, like, that's a weird team. You know, he definitely, I think, fits better into a different Alchemist team, and it may be an Alchemist team we don't have yet.
That's fair. I take your lead on that because, like I said, I haven't actually gotten them on the field to play with them yet. I mean, and some of that goes to the discussion about, you know, first turn scoring, which is all the you know, all the rage right now. But, you know, Yeah, I there's really nothing else to say. In my mind, it seemed like it was going to make sense, especially since, not that the alchemist hurt for influence, but he also struck me very much like a Brick-like character.
Yes,
right?
that is an advantage he brings, where he needs but one influence.
Right. You give him one, you park him back, he activates first, he puts up his horrific odor, and then you go play the rest of your game. And you're basically sacrificing one activation.
Yeah, and that's sort of the quandary. Like, I need to play him to decide if I can sacrifice that first activation, because right now I feel like I can't, but that is through the lens of having not done it. Right? So I really need to play him. And of course I won't until I've got the card and the model, and at this point I don't have them yet. So ask me in a month and a half how I feel about Compound. Now, Chi-zel, on the other hand, Chi-zel is a very she's going to be a complicated model to use to her full effect, but a very damaging model when you do get that off. I
love the way she looks. I'm not sure how she fits into my Masons team. Mm-hmm. And that is such a weird thing for me to say, because come on, I wrote an article about the Masons Brute Squad. Mm-hmm. And you would think she would fit there ideally, but the reality is the Masons Brute Squad is built around harmony, around honor, delivering the damage. Mm-hmm. And and since you didn't say it, while Chi-zel, our little black-haired French girl, can deliver some damage, she's on this razor-thin wire for maximum damage.
Right, and the risk reward there is really high. Like, I kind of look at her ability that gives her the extra damage when she's under 6 health as one of those things where don't play for that, because you're just setting yourself up to sacrifice 2 points. So kind of figure out how much damage she's going to do getting there. Now, the thing that I don't necessarily like is I see a lot of people trying to theory craft ways to integrate Tower and Chi-zel together.
So you don't like that, because I'm going to tell you, I'm all about that.
I'll tell you what I don't like about that is I don't like set piece combinations, because I feel like every time I try to set up a multiplayer interactive set piece, what ends up happening to me is that the first opportunity my opponent has, they're just going to unravel that. They're going to push somebody.
You need to play more Union.
I've been playing more Union simply because they all play by themselves, and it actually suits me a little better. But right. So, when I see something like an effect where it's like, oh, well, this player's got to go and get a momentum so he can pop his heroic play. So this player can go do this thing. I just think somebody's getting pushed, right? Somebody's getting pushed. You're not going to get it off. You're stranding influence. You're sacrificing an early activation to set up something for a middle turn activation. Like I just prefer to compartmentalize. I prefer to sit there and say, okay, everybody gets enough influence to do a thing, and that thing is not going to rely on anybody. We're just going to react to everything. Now, am I an awesome player? No. But I don't strand a lot of influence.
So this is how I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
Today, I don't think Chi-zel fits into Bill's Mason team today, which has one strong scoring threat in Flint, possibly 2 if I want to bring Mist, has the Brute Squad of Marbles, Honor, and Mallet in there. And then usually I'll throw a Brick or whatever in as my, am I already over? I may already be over, but no. So my last player is usually Brick. What I do think is as I shift play styles, right? Mm-hmm. Depending on what the new captain does, which I think we saw him, right? Isn't that MC Hammer?
Yeah, Captain Hammer.
Yeah, MC Hammer. Can't touch this.
Yeah.
So, depending on what he does, I can see slotting him in, bringing Honor out, which now leaves me short with a beater, leaving Marbles in with Chi-zel, and suddenly, and again, I like the idea of tower and the combo play, so suddenly swapping that brick and tower combo. And it's a different team, can deliver still what I want from Masons, plays somewhat similar. However, I'm going to have a couple of new players, and people may not be expecting what they see. I also love the fact that we, i.e., not us, but the Steamforge guys, run out and nerf the crap out of Decimate. Because we all know I don't know how to play, and apparently that 1 inch difference is huge. But they put the 2 inch melee range on Chi-zel and give her Decimate's, a very similar to Decimate's playbook. You're just going to let that one sit? Come on, I was just trying to brush past it.
I'm just going to leave it there. I'm just going to let it. I'm just going to let it lie there. So,
but she does have a very Decimate-like. A playbook that's very similar to Decimate, right? Lots of dodges, lots of early momentum.
But she does have one lower kick. She does have one lower defense. So in the alchemy of, the arcane alchemy of pointing out characters, she probably does balance to Decimate. She's a character that I think just because of the miniature as much as anything, I want to play her enough to figure out how she really works. The thing about her is that I'm not convinced that she's really a beater. I think that I think she plays that role that I think Decimate probably is a very good comparison for. I think she plays that role. She converts influence into momentum, and she does what Decimate used to do, which was control a chunk of the board. So
I would agree with you. I think her beater capability is a second run.
Well, I think it's a red herring. I think there's some players in Guild Ball whose what you think they do is a dangerous way to play them, and I think she's one of those characters. I think that if you go out there and you think, okay, I've got to get Chi-zel beat up so that she gets her painful rage ability, just to get 3 more damage, you're going to put her into, desperate health to get 3, at most 4 damage in a turn.
Okay. So let me say it this way. I am not, this is not a disagreement with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Based on what you're saying, if that's how people approach playing her, I agree completely. It's a trap, right? This is the Admiral Akbar moment. It's a trap. However, here's what I see happening. My prediction for Chi-zel. 1, her most powerful capability in play here is going to be Feel My Pain.
Absolutely.
The fact
you get that third column, 1 momentous damage plus Feel My Pain is the first playbook result you take every stinking turn. That is what she's here to do.
And that, because, and somebody's mentioned it on the board already, that is brutal for the shark advance, for the Midas charge on the goal.
Right, because any targeted attack, that includes pushes and dodges. That's a very important thing.
And then
that ability is very powerful.
Right. And when you look at momentous tackle on 2, right? And you look at how she set up with her 2 inch, those 3 together. Now, the secondary, and I think this is a really close secondary, and this is why I say she's a beater. Okay. Then you take people who dabbled in Morticians and understand how to use crazy, with people who now want to learn this new thing of, I cut myself for 3 damage because I'm crazy cutter girl. I drop to 6 or 5 health, and Marbles has tooled me up.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, this is a 9 tack model with plus
3.
Yeah, with plus 3.
Plus 2
damage on all of her attacks.
Yeah, but even then, unless you're going after a 2 defense opponent, you're probably looking at 12 points of damage. I mean, 12. Why are we shaking our fingers at 12 points of damage?
Right.
But I mean, she's not Boar. You know, she's gonna wreck somebody.
But hold on. Here's the big thing. So she's at 10 health. So she's taken 3 to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
She's at 9 health. She drops to 6. She beats the crap out of whoever she's there. I mean, even with a 9 tack,
mm-hmm.
you're lobbing out 3 and 4 points of damage across the influence.
Yeah.
Okay. And more times than not, you're doing more than that, but you're going to default down to that. And then at the end of the turn, and this is where the link to, Crazy Cutter Girl and the Morticians comes in, Cosset. At the end of the turn,
right?
That was all a heroic play. You're right back up at 10 health again.
Right. And that's one of the other weird things about her is that I think it's going to be hard to get Painful Rage off on a regular basis because she's already healing herself out of effect by going down 3 and up 4.
Yep.
Then if you happen to use sadism in there somewhere, she's just going to be healing more.
Yeah, but you don't want to use sadism because you can't trigger it off a play, and it's going to be better to attack with her with that influence.
Well, I'm just saying if. I didn't say you would. I'm just saying if. But it's one of the things that really strikes me about these season 2 characters, and I can say this about all 4 of them at this point, and it's true, is that there were people who were worried about whether or not these season 2 players were going to invalidate season 1 players.
Yeah, the balance or whatever.
And we certainly are not seeing anything even remotely like that. I mean, these players are all interesting, but not one of them has been an automatic, that player is on every roster every time. I mean, these are interesting players. They have new and different effects, but everyone,
I think they could have slotted in as a season 1 player without anybody noticing.
Yeah, and that's the goal. I mean, absolutely, that's the goal of this game is to have every one of these players sort of be on the same continuum. So.
And this is the last thing I'll say about Chi-zel. She's bursty.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And you're right. She heals herself out of range of her play again, but she's bursty. Mm-hmm. And on that turn, when she pops, when she bursts, somebody's getting hurt.
Yeah, but and here's kind of where we come back to. All right, so it's the maintenance phase. I'm looking at my team. I'm going to stack somebody up to do 12 damage. Which player on the Masons team am I going to stack up to do 12 damage?
Who, you, Phil? You're putting that on to Mallet.
No, I'm not. No, but the thing is, so if, and this is the eternal question with the Masons is, one player on the Masons is getting a disproportionate amount of your influence, and it's going to define what your entire team does that turn. And those 2 players are Honor and Flint. Chi-zel may routinely, in any lineup, only be getting 2 or 3 influence, 3 at most, and she's stealing it from somebody else.
Yep. But go back to what I said before. For me, Chi-zel's not in my lineup with Honor.
That's entirely possible. We'll have to see what Hammer does.
MC Hammer's going to do.
Yeah, I think I will play her. I will play her regularly just because, well, first of all, you know me, I love to rotate my team. I never play the same team.
Right.
But second of all, I mean, in those matchups where I don't like having harmony, against beater teams and of course against the alchemists, she may be a little bit more attractive of an option than
I don't know, dude.
Decimate or Minx or Tower.
I mean, I'm trying to picture Midas or anybody else popping up Feel My Pain.
Okay, yeah. Maybe she's not good against the Alchemist either.
Yeah, 1-inch Scything Blow is nasty, but anytime you attack that person, especially somebody who can trigger a momentous guild ball on one success.
Yeah. Okay, so you got a point. But yeah, I mean, I like Chi-zel kind of playing opposite Mallet in almost the same role, just sort of that midfield stopper who can, where Mallet's trick is shoving people around, Chi-zel's trick is kind of making somebody pay for coming through her lane. And yeah, she's not in the current lineup. Maybe she's not getting a huge return, but I think the player you're dropping may not have been contributing so much more either. Because really, we're talking about a team of 2 players and their friends.
So here's the other thing to look at, and just something to consider, right? Even if you're not down in the painful rage category.
Yeah.
If Mallet's on the field, he can still drop singled out on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So again, without getting into that painful rage category, you're still talking about Chi-zel swinging at attack of 9, and that's potentially a burst up to 11 standing still.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
sorry, that would be 12.
Yeah.
A surge up to 12 standing still.
Ooh, yeah, she could throw a bucket of dice.
I mean, she's only got 7 slots in her playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not saying she's not good. I'm saying maybe don't expect her to work the way you think she does, but see the cool things that she can do when she's not doing that, because she's not going to be doing that all the time.
Right. I'm with you.
Yeah. So, all right. So, yeah.
So there we go. Chi-zel and
I really want to paint both of those players. So hopefully they will show up down at Armada any day now.
See, I realize we have a new player, Dan, in my area, and he has Chi-zel ordered, and I know I will be facing her a lot because Masons is his team. Mm-hmm. So.
All right, so one of the best places to talk about all these new players is, of course, the Guild Ball forums.
And I hear that we have new forums, so like people can actually sign up now.
Yeah, not only are the forums kind of spiffified with a new appearance, but the protection has been raised considerably, and we no longer are facing a spam attack. Because the day after we released the last episode of Guild Ball Tonight, about 2 weeks ago, they did launch the new forums, and we have seen an influx of new faces and new ideas into the forums. And what we have not seen are offers to buy Chinese sunglasses.
And I just want to point out, I mean, not only were the offers for Chinese sunglasses gone, which I'm really happy about, but there were all of these male enhancements. And since I was just recently told how lacking I was, I've been looking for new sources for male enhancements.
Yes. Well, I'm just old enough that I've given up on male enhancement. I got nothing left to enhance. But it's definitely it's great to see. It's great to see the forums kind of back open for business, and it was nice to see the influx of people, especially since I've actually had a number of friends and people contact me mentioning through a couple of different areas, hey, is there any way we can get onto the forums? Yeah. Now the answer is yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah, and it was, let's be honest, it was a bit of an embarrassment. I mean, we understood why the registration had to be limited, and it was that old site was aggressively targeted by those spammers.
Oh yeah.
But it was a little bit of an embarrassment that for that couple of months we didn't have the ability to convert new players into new forum posters. And now, thankfully, we are beyond that, and it is fun times again. Now, the one complaint I have with the new forums, and I would appreciate if anybody out there knows how to do this, let me know, because it's entirely possible I've just missed it.
You're talking about the rules forum?
No. What I'm talking about is the fact that I have not figured out how to quickly jump to the first unread post when you open a topic. Oh, it seems like I have to scroll through it all. So if I'm just missing the link to click on, somebody tell me.
Yeah, and when you find out, Phil, please let me know.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of frustrating.
I mean, because
the old forum did that sort of automatically.
Yep.
The new forum does not seem to do it at all. So
I think that and the ordered by vote posts in the rules forum.
I've never been a big fan of upvoting and downvoting. I want a conversation. But, that's one of those generational things. We're old BBS guys, and these are new kids. And
I'd be okay if the rules question itself were voted up or down.
Yeah.
But when the answer posts inside are voted up and down, so that none of the conversation makes sense.
Yeah.
I just get drastically confused.
Yeah, that's understandable. Hopefully
I put my old man hat on and just wander around mumbling to myself.
Yeah. So hopefully some of these will be growing pains and we'll figure it out. But, at the end of the day, I would rather have an open and very active forum, which is what we have, than a forum that's got one or two minor little features that I miss. So good to see that back. So next on the agenda, so we have been seeing some pictures of some new storage options for our Guild Ball toys, and that is in the form of some new custom cut Battlefoam trays. Now, I'm not a Battlefoam guy, as people who've seen my review video for the KR cases, I am all in on KR, and it's simply because it's one of those, storage solutions can be one of those things where you hit a critical mass and it becomes cost effective only to stay in one ecosystem. And I'm kind of there.
Yep.
But Bill, you are a Battlefoam
I'm on the
user.
other side.
Yes.
Yeah. I never got into KR and was into Battlefoam right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So what they've done, Battlefoam has finally come across Guild Ball. All hail Guild Ball.
Yes. Everybody's coming in, man. Everybody's coming in.
Here's what I love about this. It's very validating to me, because when I got my Guild Ball stuff in, I laid everything out. I looked at everything. I said, oh, crap. Okay. So 4 bag. Well, that's the same bag Romeo ended up picking at Battlefoam for the Guild Ball bag. And then he did some custom cutout foam. Mm-hmm. His topper, my opinion, fantastic.
Yeah, the topper with the embossed Guild logos. That's a really nice piece of kit.
His foam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 18. You can hold 18 30 millimeter base models, 10 40 millimeter base models. You can get a good couple of teams in there. Yeah. I believe it's on our website. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but on our website is the foam that I used, which fits the C4 bag. And I had done measurements to cut everything out. I can get a bit more models in there. Mm-hmm. My foam cutout, you can get 5 teams into. Right. 5 full season 1 teams. Now, that means you're going to have to swap out with the season 2 models that come in. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to make some adjustments for the engineers, because I didn't account for the engineers. But it has enough spaces that, for example, the Mortician's row, you can figure out which row is for the Morticians, because it has 2 larger spaces for both casket and, I keep wanting to say graves. I think it is. No, it's not graves. It's
Ghast.
Ghast. There we go. Yeah. So for both casket and Ghast. The only trick I found is that bore is so massive that on the foam that I had put aside for fishermen, butchers, and my alchemists, on that set of foam, you actually have to just cut one extra little space, but the space is right there for bore if you put them in the top row. Mm-hmm. So, everything is in there It's ideal. It'll hold 5 teams. So for those people who bought, it'll hold 7 teams. So for those people who bought everything like me, and in those 7 teams includes a union, there's plenty of spaces for all the models. Now, if you don't need that many teams and you just need the 4 teams that fit on the bottom tray, Romeo has a great top tray, which is custom cut for all the team tokens.
Yeah, do you really need a foam cell for arcs though? That struck me as being a little weird. Like I would have rather put a miniature in that spot.
Yeah, and that's what I did, right? So in the trays that I have the place for all my goals. I just throw my ball on top of the goals, and I fold my tokens into a couple of bags. Now, I'm not having to carry tokens for all the teams. I carry 2 sets of influence tokens. I carry my union curves, but there's enough space that I could put probably 2 more bags of those in there, and all my templates drop right in with no problem. And you can always put templates on the backside. The nice thing about that C4, it's good to go look at the Battlefoam webpage if you're going to check this out. And the big thing about the C4, one side holds your foam, but the side that actually has Battlefoam C4 embossed on the canvas, that is a pouch that holds your entire Guild Ball rulebook, and then that zips open, and there's a card folder in there. So it's it's nice. All my cards, even my laminated cards, fit inside of sort of a 3-ring binder, card page. Notebook card holder thing. And then I just throw all the extra stuff in there, my cheat sheets, my errata, tape measures, a flat thing of dice. And, you'll see it when we get to St. Louis, Phil, because I'm bringing this with me. And that was the great question, right? You were talking about, well, what can I shuffle together? And I was like, well, I'm just bringing everything.
Well, yeah, I have that option too. I certainly have the option to bring, because I've got a standard size KR case, the way I've got it configured, holds 84 figures.
Right.
So I can bring absolutely everything I've got. I just don't know that I want to take a chance of having absolutely everything I've got with me on the road.
Well, so here's what I'm looking at. When you say a standard size, this is only about 6 inches thick.
Okay, so it's like a half size. Okay.
Yeah, it's small. It's
Well, and I've got the half size KR bag as well, and it holds, the way I've got it built out, it holds 30 figures. But I tend to only bring, what I'll do is those 30 figures are in 2 small boxes. I'll usually bring 1 box and then fill up the rest of the space in the bag with my little Plano boxes of stuff and cards and counters and all that stuff. So when I'm actually traveling, I'm usually only carrying the 15 figures. Now this bag though is small enough that it can't fit the rule book. It's smaller than that. So it's smaller than the C4 case that you're looking at.
Right.
So my cases are kind of on either side of yours.
Right. My entire C4 case is, anybody who has the Xeno Shift box, and I only say that because I'm looking at them side by side right now. Anybody that has the Xeno Shift box from Cool Mini or not, that game, my C4 case packed is the same size as that game box.
Yeah.
So, I'll be able to bring it on a plane, put it in the overhead without worrying about it getting crushed, put my laptop or my, either put it over my carry-on or put, if I bring a laptop, throw it over that and I'll be in good shape.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. And it's one of those things where at the end of the day, it's, either of those is going to be a great solution. If you're already in an ecosystem, you're probably better off staying in it. If you're not, go with the one that holds the figures that you carry around. That's really my advice.
Yeah, and I've heard all the sides, right? The negatives on both. I've heard that the Battlefoam scrapes off paint. I haven't had that happen. I've heard the KR models punch through the soft foam and then break. I haven't heard a lot of people have that happen. I really think it's down to personal preference at that point.
Yeah, and I think some of these stories are isolated, atypical events.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's cool. And the more people who provide material for Guild Ball just helps to underscore how well the game has grown and what a player it has become in the marketplace, that people feel the need to support it with more of this third party product. So,
yep,
definitely welcome seeing that. So one last bit of news, and it's show news, because we love to do show news. And that is that I threw together today, just out of curiosity, because Bill and I are always striving to make this show a good show. We don't want to do a bad show. And so we have
other shows to be bad.
Yeah, believe me, I've got another show to be terrible on. But I threw together a little survey for the site, just because, we kind of want to know, like, what your favorite part of the show is, what your least favorite part of the show is, and what you kind of want more or less of. And so if you go to the GBT podcast Twitter, I posted it there. And also if you go to, guildballtonight.com, it is the link for the survey is right up at the top of the page. And if you really want to make your voice known, I would say get on this early, because I'm not paying SurveyMonkey for the premium service. So the first 100 people in are all the people that are going to get in. So, but it would definitely help us sort of decide on frequency of release, segment lineups, things we should add, things we should concentrate less on. And, we want to make this a quality product that the community can enjoy and appreciate. So give us some thoughts. We would appreciate it. So next up, let's go ahead and talk about some events we'll specifically be at. Now, at the end of the show, we are going to have an event roundup again, but at this point in the show, we're just going to be selfish and talk about the things that directly affect us.
Yes,
because that's the power that we have. And so the first in chronology, of course, is the St. Louis Open, which is coming up in, let's see, I'm going to be on a plane next Thursday. So
yeah, I was going to say it's awfully soon.
It's awfully soon. Yeah, it's 10 days away maybe at this point.
Yeah,
so, and at this point, the event is looking to be a really nice turnout. There are only 8 of the 32 seats left unsold, according to Tiebreak. So we are looking at 24 Guild Ball players in St. Louis right now, with more latecomers, I'm sure, trickling in. That is a respectable turnout. Very excited about that.
I just want to point out how disappointed I was. This is the format, and this is the forum for me to tell this story. So, 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, it was after we recorded last. So, whenever long that was, 3 months ago or whatever.
15 days.
So I don't know how many people have heard this or not, but my daughter's birthday is the Monday after this event.
Yeah.
And, family's got events and everything else going on. So after we got back, it was after we recorded. So it was also after the demo day where my daughter played Guild Ball, realized she really likes it. Unfortunately, she wants to look at the butchers. So I still have some work to do on her. But as she said, scoring goals is boring, Daddy. Killing stuff is fun. But that said, so 17th birthday coming up, and we're all talking, and my daughter looks at me. She goes, Daddy, I didn't realize you were going for a Guild Ball event and that the guys from England were going to be there. If you can get home by the time I get out of school, then I wouldn't even know you were gone, except for, on that Monday, except that you'd be gone all weekend. So it wouldn't upset me, and then we can still do my birthday stuff for dinner and afterwards. And I went, oh, okay. So very quickly, I open up my laptop and I start the whole thing, because now maybe I can enroll and be in the tournament on Sunday, right? So first thing I do is I hit the hotels, and I realize it is as expensive for a Sunday night hotel at this point, in the hotel, just to extend to Sunday night, as it's costing me for both Friday and Saturday night beforehand. Oh, wow. So I was like, okay, that sucks. So I poke around a little bit more, and I find out there is a Marriott at the airport Sunday night that I can check into 4 points and stay for free. So I'm like, done. So I get that locked down. And then I start juggling around and I realize there's slots left for the tournament. Okay. All ready to go. I queue that up and then I went, you know what? Before I do that, because this is going way too smoothly for me, let me go make sure my flight, which I believe I can change already, is not going to be an issue. And I get in and I'm going through the United site and find out for some reason I can change my flight to leave St. Louis at 1 o'clock on Monday, getting me home at 4 o'clock Monday afternoon, well within the guidelines I've been given, at no additional cost.
Oh.
And I am excited. I'm about to click, right? I switch back to the other page. I get ready to click on the button to buy my ticket. And then I paused and I went, something feels off. So I go back to the United page and I hit commit. And it goes through all the process. Do. We're sorry, you have to make a phone call to book this flight. And I went, okay, that's a little weird because I'm a United Gold member, everything else. Maybe it's because I'm getting the no cost, no change fee because I'm a gold member. So that's why they want me to call. And I pick up the phone and call. No, both of the flights that are in the morning, the 10 a.m. Monday flight and the 1 p.m. Monday flight from St. Louis, they're both blocked for my anybody changing things in. I could buy a new ticket one way back.
Ugh.
Or I could leave St. Louis at 6:30 at night.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, crap.
Ah, so close.
Oh, crap. So I'm back into the same status, and there's my sob story. Boo-hoo-hoo. I'm going to be, down to learning how to play Guild Ball Friday and Saturday only. But maybe Jamie will be nice enough, be kind enough to at least teach me enough of the game that I can have discussions with the Rules Lawyers Guild.
It's
not going to stop. We have a whole show left to go.
I know. I'm just ducking. All right. So we do have the tournaments that are on Sunday, and Bill and I are both going to be there. Friday and Saturday?
Friday and Saturday. Yep.
I will show up on Thursday night, but probably don't expect me to get there in time to do anything. And then Monday, I've got some craziness with my flights, but I'm not getting home until like the middle of the night on Monday. So I will, I'll be around. So anybody who happens to be there, definitely find us and say hi. I mean, it would be one of the main reason I'm going out is just to meet people and to sort of enjoy the society of our game. I'm not going out to actually play because I don't,
And despite other news, I actually play the game a lot. So I would love to get games. So find me.
Excellent.
And we'll play some games.
Excellent. So there you go. So there's what you should expect. You should expect me to be standing around and talking about a game and Bill to actually be playing a game. And I think that probably is about what you should expect us in any situation.
In any situation.
Exactly.
Yes.
So good. So that is next weekend. Gosh, already. So still 8 slots open. It would still be awesome to fill that out to the full 32. But I have to say that for a,
oh, come on, 24 is fantastic.
24 is great, especially given that the game at this point is more popular on the coast. So we're looking at people who are traveling, and I think it's awesome that we're getting so many people traveling already for a game. That's a great sign for the future where, if it really becomes a game that people are willing to invest time and money into going and playing, we are going to have an awesome community. And so
now here's my question for you. 2 questions, Phil.
Yeah.
Number 1, when you look at a name like Dan Salmons from Omaha,
yeah,
in a group called the Dream Crush, I mean, come on, or a name like, hold on. Oh, no. Come on. There we go. Nicholas Kulesa from the storytellers. Which one of those sounds like a more cutthroat, win the entire tournament name to you?
This is a trick question.
No, but they're the two engineers, registered engineers,
okay,
who must be looking for the bounty.
Okay, well, I would love to see somebody from the U.S. pulling that engineer's bounty. So definitely keep a lookout for those guys. So.
And then I wonder how many of these people are going to be swapping up their teams to engineers.
Yeah, once they find out about that.
Yeah, once they learn about the bounty.
I don't know. I would love to see it happen. So let's get on that, people. All right. So then in December, it looks like you have got got something going down.
December 5th. I have to give some credit to my friend Maurice, who is also a pundit in the local area. Maurice and I will be both at this point until one of us beats the other down and actually gets the right to play in the tournament. We'll be doing the first capital region, U.S. Washington, D.C. capital region Guild Ball tournament. So this is going to be a Guild Ball friendly. We are actually going to be using the friendly format from the current set of rules and the Mob Football Association rules. The only thing that's really up in the air right now, and it's a point of discussion, I've emailed Northy and said, one, can we be an official Guild Ball tournament? Mm-hmm. And as such, get all sorts of cool things like if nobody wins the engineer's bounty by then, actually award an engineer's bounty off of our tournament. Mm-hmm. And two, possibly get some cool teasers for season 2 in our prize pack. So, and the one thing that we have outstanding that Maurice and I are still discussing because of the community around here being so new is whether we want to go with fixed 2-hour time limit or if we want to actually use the thinking time using the clocks. Now, the nice thing is there is a wonderful clock timer called the GB Timer app.
Yeah, I wonder
for iPhones.
I wonder who might have created that.
So, and I want to thank you for creating that, Phil, because
chained to a desk had time to create that.
I got to tell you, I played with the clock for the first time the other night.
Yeah,
and it wasn't so bad. I did 45 minutes on my clock. I was just using it to time my own activations. Mm-hmm. So I would switch it over and it didn't really penalize my opponent at all. He didn't even realize he was playing under a clock. And I just tracked my own time. And yeah, you know what? It's not as bad as as I have experienced in other games.
Right.
So it actually worked pretty well.
Good. Well, I'm glad that the app has come in handy. And, for anybody who needs a chess clock, you can get it on the App Store, and as an added bonus, it even handles some of the Guild Ball specific idiosyncrasies, like
the 1 minute after
the 1 minute clocked out bounds that kick in after your standard time, and also includes a mode for the speedball game. So it's it's a little thing that I threw together, for the benefit of everybody. It's free. It's lightweight. You can download it, without even being on Wi-Fi. Yep. And, so definitely go and look for that if you need it. So,
and the Capital Guild Ball friendly again will be at Play More Games on December 5th. Mm-hmm. There is going to be a registration fee. We're looking at $15, but that's going to cover things with the store and prize support and everything else. And, it's going to be a full day. We're capping it at 16. Mm-hmm. So, I would love to see people crying about not being in on the 16 because that just tells us that we need to go bigger next time.
Right. Well, and if you can't get into the Capital Guild Ball friendly, you'll have to console yourself with driving down to Orlando in March.
Or flying. They could fly.
You could fly. I would be happy as long as you show up. And that is because on March 12th and 13th, here in my, hour away backyard, we are having a Guild Ball tournament at Crucible 5. and that is right there in Orlando, or I guess it's technically Kissimmee, but right outside the gates of the Mouse House. So you can tourist, you can guild ball. It should be good times. It's a really nice event. Lots of games going on. Lots of good stuff. And we are doing our events on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday is going to be a standard regional cup, 16 players cap at the moment. If you make me grow that, I will be forever grateful. But at the moment, that's what we're looking at. And then on the Sunday, we are going to do the quick speedball tournament, try to knock that thing out in just a few hours, and that should be a lot of fun. So I anticipate the GB Timer app will be getting a workout over that weekend. So, and that is at last check, it was already approved to be a sanctioned event. So let's look, and in that March time frame, maybe we'll know a little bit more about season 2 by then, and I think the teams that we're going to be fielding for that March event should be really interesting. So looking forward to just kind of standing around those games in particular. So, Bill, after talking about all these tournaments that we're running, a really a fundamental question crosses my mind, and that's
since you're running a tournament, how do you do it?
How the hell do I run a tournament?
Well, Phil, just pull up a chair.
Yeah,
man, I feel old.
Yeah,
let's chat about that for a bit.
You betcha.
Okay, so credential wise. Have I run tournaments in the past? I have run a ton of events. Mm-hmm. There was a point. Interestingly, this is one of the things that went out on my pundit application when Northy and I were chatting about this. So to give you a general idea, in 2012, maybe 2013. There was a year, and I'm going to try to find the exact date, where I ran for Malifaux. Malifaux pundits were called henchmen. Mm-hmm. And Malifaux skirmish game, right? Similar, in vein, not sporty, but in vein with Guild Ball. Small model count. Objective based, so think of objectives as scoring goals. I consistently ran a 16-person plus 16 to, we were up around 30 at one point, tournament every month straight for 12 months. Ran 4 leagues, and then we would run once a month a Tuesday night short form tournament with just 8 players.
All right.
So, do I have experience doing this? Yes. Here's a couple of things I would say you need to think about when you go into tournaments. One, as a tournament organizer, don't let it get to you. I hear so many new tournament organizers, and you know what? I even hear a lot of sort of the old grizzly vets kind of put this huge weight and emphasis on running a tournament, and you got to get it right, and how difficult it is. It doesn't have to be difficult if you do the preparation beforehand. Now, chances are you're going to come out of pocket with a little bit of cost, and hopefully you can cover some of that with some tournament, with the entry fee on the tournaments, or make a decision not to cover it and put the entry fee back into prizes. But there's a couple of things to prepare that you want to do. The first thing I recommend doing is, especially for Guild Ball, go out and get the Guild Ball Mob Football Association tournament pack. Mm-hmm. They have laid out, the Guild Ball guys have laid out a great set of formats that fits the competitive environment and really delivers that Guild Ball feel. And it's a Chinese menu. Mm-hmm. Right? So go do that. That's the easiest thing first. When you download it, copy the link you downloaded it from and paste it into a Word document somewhere. And then go to the Guild Ball page and go to the rules and copy the link for the rules. Don't download the rules. You should already have the rules, but copy the link for the rules. Throw it in that same Word document. Copy the link for the errata. throw that in the same Word document. What you've just done with those 3 links in the Word document is you've started your tournament pack, which is going to be your player pack.
All right.
Player packs are important. Your player pack's important because what it's doing is it gives the definition to your players about what you're trying to deliver with the tournament. And this is where you can communicate with the players a couple of really basic things. Are you looking for a highly competitive tournament? Put that in there. One of the things I do with my player packs right at the very opening of the player pack is I actually put a section in that says the intention of the event. And if I want something that's cutthroat, single elimination, best player wins, kicks over the enemy, and plays Conan, I just put that right in the beginning, right? But if I'm going for a more casual event, I put that in as well. And then you talk about all the basics. A lot of this you can pull out of the Guild Ball Mob Association pack, but some of it you're going to fill in yourself, right? So give as much information as you can. Where is your tournament going to be located? Give a location, even though people already should know to show up. What does it cost to register? What's the date? Where can they go to pre-register? Give them that address, right? Is it just an email or whatnot? Actually go out and think about, and this is all in the prep, but think about, what do you want the timing of your tournament to be? And don't forget, you're going to have to add time for lunch breaks and for tallying scores. Right? So give yourself 10 or 15 minutes between each round just to announce new pairings and everything. It's going to make your life easier in the long run.
Okay.
Tell people how long the tournament's going to be, even though you just gave them tournament timing. So I have 2 sections, right? So I have a section that says registrations at 10:30, round 1 starts at 11 o'clock, et cetera, all the way down to however many rounds I'm going to do. And then I do a whole nother section for those people that scan that and then don't process it that says, hey, this is going to be a 4-round tournament and you're not going to get out of here till 9 o'clock at night. That way they see it twice and they go, oh. So when they get there and it gets on towards 7 and suddenly they're like, well, my wife's going to be calling me or my kids are called or my mom just showed up to pick me up. They've already thought that through because you've tried to reemphasize it. So just give them information, right? All the basic information you would like to know, write it down. Doesn't have to be complex or anything like that. And then send that out and distribute it on email, put it on Facebook, and bring copies with you. And this is the last trick, I would say. Put your scoring sheet. Rip the scoring sheet right out of the back of the Mob Football Association pack. And put the scoring sheet as the last page in your tournament pack. Spend the money, print out copies for however many people you think are going to show up, and put it in their hands as they register with you.
Okay.
Now they have scoring and everything they need. And even though you should be nice and answer their question, when a player, in the middle of round 2 is rolling up on 3 o'clock and goes, when does this round end? You can kind of go over and pat them on the back and then point at the 4 or 405 that's in your tournament pack while you tell them what time it ends. It just solves a lot of problems. And that prep gets you mentally situated to then go do the tournament.
Right.
So,
all right. So now let's talk about some of the other things you need to do in advance, well before the date of the event. Like, I guess one of the most important ideas is probably venue. How do you arrange a venue? How do you choose a location for your event?
And I think this is particularly important, especially in the U.S. right now. So the UK listeners, you guys have it much easier than we do because you have stores that are selling product. Be conscious of the fact, and I'm dealing with this now. Stores love getting new players into their store in the U.S. Clubs love having new players come in to play games. However, you're taking up space in the store, and if it's product the store is not selling, you might get bumped for an event centered around something they do sell. And until Guild Ball gets picked up more heavily in stores in the U.S., if you're trying to run an event at a store that is not currently carrying Guild Ball, You need to contact them well ahead of time. Give yourself a good 4 to 6 weeks before you want to have your event to let them prepare and get them excited about it. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the cool things about this is, and we've run into this, Play More Games, wonderful store. Huzzah Hobbies, great store. That's my local store. Dream Wizards, which is Maurice's store. They all have different stances, right? Dream Wizards was very upfront with Maurice and I when we started putting together the tournament for the 5th, and they said, look, we would welcome you guys coming in, but taking up 16 tables on our Saturdays when you're conflicting with other games that we sell, that's a problem because we don't plan on selling this product right now. Mm-hmm. Huzzah Hobbies, on the other hand, different relationship. When I presented the demo day to him and said, look, this is what we're doing. We're looking at about 10 to 12 people. We could spike up to 20 to 24. He sort of went, well, okay, why don't we come in? I'm going to put you in the back room away from the 40K guys because there's a 40K event on the same day. When we spiked up to 20 people, suddenly he got very excited. Hey, can you give me that email again for the Guild Ball guys? I'm more interested now. So there's definitely these stores are willing to work with you, but you got to communicate with them. Mm-hmm. Now, outside of stores, you have to think about the cost if you're going to go to community centers, Lions clubs, VFWs, getting that type of access.
Okay.
And a lot of community centers in the US are going to charge you usually by the hour to use their rooms. Mm-hmm. So you want to be able to include that cost into your entry fee and then communicate that to your players so they know where the money's going.
Right.
Because if they come in and pay $30 for a day of gaming and their prize pack feels like it's $2 entry fee, they're going to be scratching their head. And everybody who runs a tournament knows none of this is done for profit.
Right.
But players are gamers and gamers are funny. So be open with them on, hey, look, here's the cost. You don't have to tell them the specific numbers, but here's where the costs are. Here's the cost we have to cover and work it out. Now, one of the things I recommend, and I've had a lot of success with, when you start looking at areas like if you can get into a ballroom at a hotel or get into a community center, those are great places to also find a way to cater lunch, bring in pizzas, sort of add a little cost to the ticket,
right,
but bring in lunch.
Right.
Even better, and this is something the guys up in New Hampshire did, they found a bar that serves food, full bar, drinks, alcohol, the whole bit, with a banquet room attached that wasn't heavily used. Mm-hmm. They made a deal with the bar. They were able to negotiate through and basically guarantee a certain amount of food spend and then just let everybody know it is expected that all of you cover at least X amount of, you could buy more, but please spend at least $10 or $5 on food so that we cover and cover the cost for the bar being open for the day. Mm-hmm. That worked out really well for those guys up there. Sometimes these places will ask you for an upfront fee. If there's gamers already working at these places, a lot of times they'll understand that 16 to 32 gamers on a full day event, they're going to spend money on alcohol and food.
Right.
And they're usually happy to work with you as long as you're not competing with a wedding or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about materials. What are you as the tournament organizer sort of responsible for bringing to an event?
So what do one of the things I put in my tournament pack is I tell people what to bring. And what I tell them is bring your models, bring your tape measures, and bring whatever tokens and whatnot you need. Now, behind the scenes, I always make sure to have a set of pens or pencils because people are going to forget them. Mm-hmm. I usually bring 2 or 3 extra tape measures and make sure I recoup them at the end of the day because somebody's going to forget a tape measure.
Right.
Beyond that, the big thing is make sure you have, especially for Guild Ball, right? So regardless of what you are, make sure you know how to set up your terrain. With Guild Ball, this is a little bit easier, kind of, because our terrain is not as intense as, say, an Infinity table.
Yeah.
However, make sure you have terrain that's balanced for the tables, and make sure you have pitches. Mm-hmm. they don't necessarily, although everybody would love it to be the wonderful Guild Ball pitches, they don't necessarily have to be the Guild Ball pitches. Go get Mats by Mars, go get the Guild Ball pitches, go get felt and lay out your pitches, or play on tables and measure them out, sort of tape them out. That, I would say, is the bare minimum. Is bring some masking tape, as long as the people at the venue that you're using, so the owner of the game store, the bar you're at, or whatever, can give you the space for 3x3 tables, and at a minimum allow you to masking tape out that 3x3 space, you're good to go. Right. However, I strongly recommend either getting some sort of foam table or felt at a minimum, and preferably going with some nicer mats. Yeah. It just adds a little more class. Yeah, it makes everything a bit better. Now, a lot of times you can source that pretty well. You only need a pitch for every 2 players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So you're not buying 16. And usually you can reach out into your community, especially if you're the TO. Chances are you have 1 or 2 pitches if you're organizing an event.
Well, and I will say that for U.S.-based pundits, there may be some information about this in the next few weeks. Stay tuned.
I've heard that rumor.
Yes, we'll come back to this in a few weeks, I promise.
So, but the big thing is, make sure you provide the pitches, then make sure you provide terrain. Now, let's talk about terrain a little bit. There's terrain guidelines in the tournament pack. Excellent pack to use. You can always theme your event. So if you are just playing Guild Ball, no big deal. Go as little or as much terrain as in the tournament pack and go to town. However, I strongly encourage, once you get 1, 2, maybe 3 quote unquote typical Guild Ball events under your belt, try to theme your event a little bit, right? Get some blue felt and play on the flooded plains, and put water hazards all over the pitches. Play City Ball and see if some of the people who play War Machine and Hordes, or play Malifaux, or play Infinity. Infinity's a little space age, but go for some medieval and the Warhammer Fantasy people. See if you can pull together some terrain and actually set up some buildings on the pitches. Going with that themed terrain is going to change your game, but then theme your event around it. Right? Let people know up front. Do a themed event. Those types of themed events keep people excited.
All right, so let's see. So you've got your terrain laid out. You've got your space. You've got your rules pack. You've got your players. No, you don't have your players yet. How do you get the word out?
So I know the way I used to do it, and I can't do that anymore because now Facebook has become a thing.
Yeah.
And as much as I hate Facebook, you need to go create an event on Facebook. I'm not even going to try to walk anybody through it. Go ask your wives or girlfriends to show you how to create events on Facebook, because I guarantee they know how.
Well, that's essentialism at its finest, Bill.
It really. And it's not like I don't practice what I preach. How do I set up my events? I go to my wife and go, "This is what I want to do. Can you make that happen for me?"
Excellent.
And she helps.
I will confess that I am a Facebook incompetent with the benefit of a cohabitating Facebook prodigy. So I am in much the same boat.
Exactly. And again, it's just, go get help. Make sure you put the information out on Twitter. Make sure you email outlets such as Guild Ball Tonight.
Hey, we'll talk about it.
And yeah, I mean, you want to spread the word not just in your local community, but elsewhere. Now, a couple of the big things. You want to also make sure that when you got that whole players pack put together, early on, send the email out to the players you know who might show up. Put it up on somewhere, whether it's Dropbox or somewhere else, where you can add the link into Facebook, or put it into the Facebook invite so people can download it, and then go email it or hand deliver it to the store or venue you're going to hold it at. Almost every venue where you're going to be gaming has some sort of bulletin board, and you want to get it up on the bulletin board, even if that's the minimal amount of response you get. Because at least it's there.
Right.
Right. And from that stance, you just want to get the word out. Now, the other thing you should not forget, we talked about it earlier in the news, Steam Forged forums. Mm-hmm. There is this great Guild Ball events section, and you want to go in there, sort of read through how other people have posted. You can see the formats, create a post so that people can go find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the last thing is look into your Guild Ball community. You may not be the organizer, or you may be the organizer. A lot of communities are putting together Google calendars. For example, like I just brought up on my webpage the DC metro area Google calendar. And those are excellent things to make sure you get a hold of the administrator of and get your event on that calendar, because there are people that check that regularly. Mm-hmm.
All right, so now you've got players. So let's go ahead and fast forward to the day of the event. What do you do before anybody shows up?
So I try to get there about a half an hour before I'm expecting players to show up, before I've asked players to show up. Mm-hmm. I typically ask players to show up, or I set my registration time to be a half hour long. So if I know I want to start the games at 11, I start registration at 10:30. I show up at 10 in the morning. You want to get in, you want to carve out kind of stake out the space you're going to use in the event. Make sure your tables are set up appropriately. Mm-hmm. Set up a space for you. You're going to want to put a laptop out. If you didn't bring a laptop, you're going to want to put some models out. You at least want a chair to put your tables on.
Well, I always need a me space. That's pretty much a given.
And Phil, you'd be surprised at how many TOs forget that. And
then I need that just for standing around and talking.
But that's exactly what I'm going with, right? You want to have a central area where you're going to be, and it doesn't have to be central to all the events, although that's where the event is. That's going to be good, but you want to be close by where the games are being played, and a place where you're going to be hanging out so that it's easy to find you as the TO.
Right.
Now, as your events get bigger, you're going to be the rules marshal and have other people usually helping you run the event. Mm-hmm. So again, you want that centralized space so that your other helpers know where to come find you.
Right.
And it's sort of your job to be that central command and control. Use your time to, again, get into the headspace, get ready, double check your space, lay your pitches out, lay the terrain out, and make sure you know where everybody's going. Now, it's good to have table numbers, but at a minimum, in your head, think about where you're assigning players to tables. Mm-hmm. If you only have 16 players, you don't have to number your 8 tables. But you do want to think, as you're naming out pairings, you want to be able to point to the table they're going to. It's also good to think about, especially in a store, but whether it's in a store or anywhere else, people who are watching the game, they may have been at lower tables or whatever, they're going to want to watch the final table, top table game, the people who are competing for first place. Leave some space around whichever table you're going to use for your tournament. The people who are in the running for tournament winning, make sure there's some space around that pitch so that people can spectate.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good tip. That's a good tip. All right, so we've gotten to there. Now, do you want to say anything about handling pairings or Swiss format or any of that, or is that?
No, how you do pairings is going to come up, and it's really a matter of preference, right? Most people do Swiss. It's so easy. There's so many different applications out there that can do this, and so I'll say this. Let's say this, because now that I'm thinking about it, there may be the one person out there that's really excited about running a Guild Ball tournament. He's going to get 64 players, and he's never run an event before.
Oh, dear God.
So this, you want to build your quick little spreadsheet, but Swiss pairings, simple enough. Winners play winners, losers play losers. And you keep that up until you get to one person winning. Basically, you're going to have a constantly decreasing pool is what you hope. Mm-hmm. What you have to worry about there is ties, but just keep your fingers crossed.
Fortunately, we're playing a game that doesn't have a lot of ties.
Right. There's lots of ways to handle ties, but that's really going to come down to experience. And no matter what advice I give you right now, if this is your first time handling a Swiss paired tournament, the tie is going to throw you off. You're going to forget my advice in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
So now, have an idea, and it's always good to get one person who's going to help you out that knows the game, and they're going to help you out getting you drinks, help them make some rulings. If you have competing rulings during the day, they're also going to fill the most important role for the day, which is the ringer. Get a ringer.
Right.
The ringer is going to play whoever's at the bottom of the stack. That you don't want to have a bye. If you have an odd number of people show up, which people are going to not show up, have somebody there who is willing to play in the tournament if they need to, and is going to pretty much play at the bottom table all day and not play to compete. Play for fun.
Right.
They get free entry if they have to play, and if they don't have to play, they hang out with you all day.
There you go. I've been that guy.
Well, that's why I said Phil.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what is sort of the before anybody really gets going, what is a good conversation to have with the assembled players sort of before the first game? What are you telling them?
I try to set the tone that I want for the day, and the tone I typically want is, if there's a theme for the event, here's the theme, and other than that, everybody have fun. Right? Even if this is a cutthroat thing, we're all here to have fun. We're playing with toy soldiers. Enjoy that. If there's questions, try to settle this as ladies and gentlemen. And if you can't do that, then call me to the table and we'll figure it out.
Right. Very good. Now, what are you doing between matches? Are you doing standings recaps? Are you just announcing pairings? How are you handling
it depends.
The matches?
It really depends on how they're ending. When matches end sooner than the time, I'll try to put some color commentary in and get everybody together to have some discussion. Yeah. If we're rushed, if something's run late or we're running right up to time on the events, usually I'm just trying to hammer out my pairings and get people paired and into the next game. Now, one of the things as a TO you should be doing is, while the matches are going on, constantly be walking around, not only to watch games. This is one of the coolest things about being TO. You get to watch all the games. So you get to see lots of really cool plays. But the second thing is be keeping an eye and be conscious of the energy level and the emotion level of your participants, of the players. Because as the day tends to get later, you may find that you want to start pushing the timings and start minimizing as much time between rounds as possible so that you can end earlier than originally anticipated.
Okay. Now, one thing that I will point out, because it often affects me, is if you are doing an event that is bringing in food, definitely as part of your entry or at the beginning of the day before you've finalized your order, find out if anybody has dietary restrictions, because some of us don't eat pepperoni.
Right.
And, that can be a little off-putting when you're sort of put in that position where you're relying on people to take care of something like that. And then, you get put into an off-putting and an uncomfortable, sort of a quandary with, what you can't, or do or do not.
And that would be one of those things I would put out. If you're serving food, put that out all the way along. Like, communicate it start to finish. When you create your players pack, put it in there. Please email me, let me know. And then ask it again on the day when people are coming in. People are already going to come in and register with you, right? You're going to be sitting somewhere, at least writing down or typing on a computer or whatnot, as people come up and go, "Hi, I'm Bill, I'm playing this team. Hi, I'm Phil, I'm playing this team." That's your time to say, "Hey, just a reminder, we're bringing food in later. It's going to be pizza, it's going to be subs, it's going to be donuts. is there anything that I need to worry about dietary wise for you?
Yeah, no. And believe me, the people who do have an answer to that question will love you forever for taking care of that. So, not only can you make somebody happy, you can make a friend.
So we've, I've worked out some really nice things in the past for some of my tournaments. The game store Huzzah Hobbies that I typically, where I go game on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, they sell soda. A lot of game stores sell soda and candy and stuff. So one of the things that we did is on a couple of the events, everybody as part of the event got a extra ticket, and you can go to any office supply store and buy a huge roll of lottery tickets. Sort of, prize tickets or whatever. Sure. We would hand those tickets
the carnival tickets. Sure.
Carnival tickets, yeah. So what I did is through the day, I handed out the tickets, and when I came in the morning, as people registered, they all got 3 tickets if it was 3 rounds. They basically got a ticket per round. And I had worked out with the store owner where part of the cost that we were going to be contributing back and part of the cost that was built into the cost of the tournament was that many sodas. So all people had to do during the rounds when they got thirsty is go hand in a ticket to get their free soda up to the number of tickets. So in this case, they got a ticket per round. It was a 3-round event. They got 3 free sodas during the day. Like there's little things like that you can work in that are really simple. A lot of times these store owners are buying their soda at discounts, so they're willing to work with you because I'll tell you what, happy gamers playing tournaments buy product.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so how do you wrap up an event? What are you looking at the end of the line?
So you want to finalize all your numbers, save it off, go through and finalize all your numbers again to figure out the winner. Unless there is a no question winner, if there's anything you have to calculate, if the games are not clearly won each time, you need to check 3. I always try to check my games 3 times. Mm-hmm. If there was a clear winner, I check twice. Mm-hmm. Right? And this is when there's no doubt whatsoever. When everybody agrees who the winner is, I check twice. If everybody does not agree, I check 3 times. Or if there's some question. Because the last thing you're going to want as a TO is to find out a week later, and trust me, you won't be the one that finds out. Some player will have gone and done the math and kept all the stats, and they'll be the ones that come back and go, "Oh, did you know that Joe was the one that actually won?" And you're going to feel a little crappy about that. Mm-hmm. So just double check. And then when it happens anyways, you can go, oh, okay. Well, hopefully he'll make it up on the next one. Mm-hmm. And then announce the winners. Get everybody together. I like to do, I like to do it in a couple different ways. If we're going to do painting or raffles or something, I try to do that first. And then I leave sort of typical showmanship, right? You want to do your podiums is what I hear the Brits call it all the time. Mm-hmm. You want to do your ranked bottom to top. So 3rd place winner, et cetera, and then announce your top winner of the day
right
at the end. That is a nice build up all the way along, even if everybody knows who wins. Have people come up, get their prizes, shake their hand, take pictures.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to remember either on phone, get your phone or bring a camera, a little point and shoot camera along, take the pictures and post those. Everybody likes to see pictures of people winning at tournaments, even though we all look stupid and goofy and tired.
All right. So prizes, are you a believer in, pick something off the table, or do you want to predefine what each layer gets specifically?
It has been a long time since I've experienced a new format of doing prizes because I think I've done them all. So I have done congratulations. Here's a quick printout certificate, and had players perfectly happy. I hear, not in Guild Ball, but I hear some of the other games over in they talk about the Tin Cup over in the UK. Mm-hmm. Right? They just they do some little Chotsky prizes, and really it's not a big deal. The big deal is the fact that it's the skill involved in the game and you won. I've also done events where a lot of the events we're doing is like I'm doing on the 5th. We're collecting money on top of having what we're hoping is a prize pack from the Steamforge guys, which is still in process. At a minimum, we know that we are taking a portion, possibly as much as 100% of the entry fee, and that'll be going back as store credit. Mm-hmm. So we'll get gift certificates that'll be split out among a set of winners and other people in the tournament as prizes, and then they get to go spend the money at the store. I've also done even for small tournaments, I over time built my own prize box when I was doing Malifaux. So we would do gift certificates plus X picks off the table or out of the prize box. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I would split, at one point my prize box was so big we had it split in two, which was here are the big winner prizes, which are limited edition models and whatnot. And here are the small winner prizes. Mm-hmm. Different things like that.
I'll say I'm a big fan of the pick your own prize, because you just never know what somebody needs. That limited edition Kraken may mean nothing to a person who doesn't have tenderizer yet, so.
Right. And the other thing I've always appreciated, and I started this early on, is I'm a big fan of the wooden spoon. I'm a big fan of, to the point where we actually got, this 3-foot long carved wooden tablespoon. And it's 3 feet long and probably, the bowl of the spoon, the end of the spoon is probably a foot across. Yeah. And we actually mounted name plaques into it as people came in last. It was just a fun thing. If you do it in the right, you don't want to do it in a negative way, but if you do it in the right positive mood, it's kind of, we had people who would vie for the spoon simply to be able to come back later on. Right. And
I will say it's a backhanded compliment, but the trend to have the prize for coming in last be a rule book, I think is hilarious.
I like that. I've seen New Dice.
Yeah. New Dice is a good one too. Yeah.
So, when we were doing, I used to run 40K events. The person who came in last at the 40K event would usually get a box set to Warhammer Fantasy.
So you can have some fun with it, basically.
Yeah, but the key is to keep it fun.
Yeah,
right.
Don't let it be insulting. Make sure that the recipient is having as much fun with it as you are.
Right. Now, the other alternative is I've also done no fixed prizes, and what we did in those events is I took the prizes I had, the actual product prizes that I had for the event, and it was a whole large amount of stuff, laser pointers and new dice and all sorts of stuff like that. We laid that out, and then we also took all of the entry fee, so gift certificates to the store, put that out. And instead of winning prizes, you won raffle tickets. Mm-hmm. So every game, and basically it came down to, I'm trying to remember, I know in one of the events we did, which I think we had the most raffle tickets, you got a raffle ticket for playing the game. You got a second raffle ticket for winning the game. You got a raffle ticket for usually a rare event in the game. So, the first snapshot you make in the day, in a game or in the day, you get a raffle ticket or something along those lines. So you basically, you want, just for playing, you want somebody to end the day with a certain number of raffle tickets. And for winning, you want somebody to end the day with at least twice and possibly 3 times as many raffle tickets. And then you want to give out some other awards. And then the person who wins gets the satisfaction of winning. It was a competitive event. They're happy. They're feeling fulfilled. And then everybody gets an opportunity at prizes, but the people who won have a greater opportunity at it.
Absolutely.
And that was a lot of fun as well, and really kind of took the burden off of the idea that we're playing an event for money.
Right. All right. So is there any quick tips for after the tournament is done and dusted and you're home and it's the next day? Is there anything you still are obligated to do at that point?
And I would say absolutely, because this is possibly the most important thing for a tournament organizer to do. Mm-hmm. Post your pictures, put a quick write-up, a couple paragraphs minimum, out onto the forum, out onto the Facebook page, and shoot a quick email over to the Guild Ball guys. Send it to, what is it, Paul at Steamforged, right? Send a quick email over to them and let them know how it goes. Even if you're not a pundit, let them know you ran an event and how it went.
Right.
Because that lets them gauge how the overall community is doing.
That's a great suggestion. All right. So some of us who've been around Guild Ball since the very beginning, I do mean the very beginning, back in the Kickstarter days or even earlier, remember that one of the cool features of that original campaign was the opportunity to pledge at a level which would allow you to help design a character for the game. And a handful of people did take that offer up and are responsible for some of those characters. Stoker, Jack, Tower, and Midas were all created under that scheme. And tonight we're joined by Michael, who was the backer who creaed Midas, and he's going to talk with us about that process, so that maybe you hear a little Guild Ball history story that you never heard before. So, how are you doing, Michael?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, Phil.
Yeah, anytime. So, what was it that caught your attention with Guild Ball and made you so interested in not just becoming a part of it, but becoming a part of it?
Well, it's the funny thing is, even though the game is so young, like you said, this Guild Ball has been it's been present for some time now. I was following Guild Ball, and I don't even remember how someone might have shared it through Facebook, one of the miniature painting groups I was part of. But I remember I had seen Guild Ball's Kickstarter page while it was still in the rough draft phase, where you can start and they let you know that it launches. And that was, was it January of 14 or the end of 2013 when that ended? So I don't remember what it is, but I remember seeing the art and thinking, wow, this looks great. And, it was more than a tabletop gamer. I would consider maybe not a good painter, but I would consider myself a painter. And when I saw these, the sculpts that they had available, because they had some work in progress sculpts and all the character art, I was like, this is the game for me.
Yeah.
Doug's artwork really, and as a lot of us aren't just tabletop gamers. I think a lot of us are also video gamers as well. And Doug, who does the art for the 4 main teams, does a lot of video game concept work. He's done concept artwork for Killzone, and it definitely has that really nice cinematic feel to it. And that combined with just the richness of the world that they had shown, I was like, this is it. I need to pledge. And I was a day one backer for Guild Ball.
Yeah. Well, and so why did you decide to do a character creator pledge? What was your thought process there?
I was just feeling a little crazy. No one had it's true. At that time, no one had pledged character backer.
Okay.
They had I believe at that point they did have the Guild Insider, but no one had actually pledged in a character, and they hadn't announced any of the additional teams yet. There was some chatter about what they would be in the comment section.
As always.
I knew that there would be brewers and alchemists coming, but no one had actually seen them yet or known anything about how they would play outside of just some general conjecture. But I was going through my Kickstarter messages before our call, and I saw the timestamp. I saw it said, "Hey matey," and that's generally the way that Rich starts emails. So I was probably talking to Rich, but I messaged him with some questions, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm really interested, but I have a few questions for you about the pledge." And he got back to me, and one of my biggest questions at first was, "Hey, if I pledge character backer since I'm the first one, is there any way you could put me on the main roster of one of the unannounced teams? Because as great as it is to be part of the Fishermen or the Butchers, it'd be really great to kind of force my character down everyone's throats and make sure that they have to play as them." Yeah. And so, once he said, "Sure, no problem," we'll put you on the starting roster if you're okay with holding out for the Alchemists or the Brewers. I said, like, all right, I'm sold. And like the very next day, I pledged for a character backer. But yeah, it really did stem from this desire, and I say it tongue in cheek, like, but I didn't want to be a blister pack. I wanted who would eventually become Midas. Said I didn't know he was going to become captain. That was a super nice unexpected surprise. But I just knew that I wanted him to. I didn't want him to be a sub.
Right, you wanted him to be a key player.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and fortunately, you turned out to be possibly the best player in the game.
Yeah, that was very, very serendipitous.
Yeah.
So as I'm looking through, and it's really interesting, like Matt and Rich, like, they have this dynamic, like Rich, looking through the emails, it's the three of us going back and forth with Russ jumping in every now and again on sculpting and artwork stuff. But, Matt is very much, as he is now, in charge of the story and the fluff, and Rich keeping Matt grounded, and him saying at one point, yeah, Matt tries to break everything and I'm here to fix it, make sure things, work. But I knew right away, like I wanted, I made some suggestions for some character names, and some of them were implemented with other characters. But as soon as I realized I was going to be an alchemist, I did a lot of wiki research. So not real research, but enough to carry a conversation. And there's all this stuff that, alchemy is really interesting historically speaking. And vitriol is another word for sulfuric acid, and that's why vitriol's face is burned. Mercury is, the periodic table substance, but also you think of mercury, it also connotes fire. And you obviously, if you're talking about alchemy, you're talking about gold. Midas, the most popular of all.
Sure.
And it just, I don't know if it was just Midas came close to Michael or what, but I just was like, I think this would be really cool. And when I started thinking about, alchemy, and then you start talking about the Philosopher's Stone, I thought, what a great kind of accessory or weapon. And, alchemists were about AoEs from the get-go. But I said, and I remember having this conversation, like, how great would it be if you had this character on the team and he deliberately didn't use his AoEs? That way it's not complete synergy. There's a decision that you have to make. Are you going to try and stop the AoEs and let this guy run wild? Or are you going to stop this powerful guy who doesn't use AoEs and in the meantime, let the field get covered in fire and poison and all this other stuff. And they were really keen on that idea. And that's where, things kind of got started from there. And I actually, looking through this email, this is a quote that I'd written. And it's really interesting because as I'm going through the email, this never really occurred to me, but I wrote, I'd love to have my character holding the Philosopher's Stone and be able to do some crazy stuff like legend says that it can do.
And I think that's kind of a cool thing. A lot of people probably have never really figured out what's happening with Midas's hand there, that he's holding a stone. It's or what it is or what it symbolizes. So that's probably a good little nugget, so to speak, of information.
Yeah, and it typically turns things either gold or silver, so keep those colors in mind. Yeah. But I'm actually I'm in the process of creating a custom base right now, and since it's already glued down, it's just not painted. I feel comfortable sharing it. But I'm using a big barrel and these Juella bricks, which are going to be painted gold. And I guess the idea is he's taking all this metal and turning it into gold and then selling it. And that's how they can fund all their experiments and their opulent clothes, or at least in Midas's case. And all the other, potions are expensive, I guess. It's not cheap turning the field into fire, game in, game out.
So anyway, it's useful to have a guy around who can make gold.
Right. And continuing on, like I have some other stuff. Like I suggest a legendary play. I compared it to, you're familiar with Mega Man, Mega Man's Mega Buster, which allows him to copy the enemies that he defeats, which eventually became True Replication. And then I suggested what I called Midas Touch, but turned into Heavy Burden. And thankfully, they turned into Heavy Burden because Heavy Burden is way cooler than my suggestion. And then for as another thing, Suit Epigraphy. Which I found out again from that Wikipedia searching, but the premise behind that is that alchemists of lesser renown, they basically have more experienced or more well-known alchemists sponsor their work, pretend it's theirs. That way the work itself gains legitimacy. So it's like if you have something that's maybe groundbreaking, but you don't think people are going to pay attention to it, you have someone who's really well-known claim it's theirs. And I liken that to someone gaining momentum that they didn't yet earn. And that,
it's kind of,
I think they really did justice to that idea in a way that resonates with the fluff I suggested, alchemy in general, and also just like a great gameplay tool.
Yeah, no, that is a neat connection. So what was the actual design process like when you were sitting down and actually doing the interaction with the artists to get an actual figure?
Well, I didn't interact with Mark, the artist who did the Alchemist, directly. I interacted with Matt, and Matt was in charge of the design brief, which he's touched on in a couple different interviews, but he really doesn't do it justice. I mean, this is like a 13-page document with pictures, text, explanation of the world, of the characters, the team dynamic, suggested artwork, and there are pictures of alchemy runes, and I mean he really covered all the bases. There's like more pictures than I'm comfortable looking at of myself. And one of the earliest pictures of an alchemist is a guy behind the table, and he's wearing a vest and a bow tie, and he's got this fancy side part and arm garters. And that really was the basis for where we were going to get started with the character. I've shown a couple people locally the initial Midas drawing, which I didn't quite grab onto, but Matt and Rich were super responsive to it, and they're like, don't worry about it, just like let us know the changes. And that's one thing I do want to touch on is that like throughout the whole process, even though there were some frustrating points where you probably know better than I do how many models, but there were a ton of models for them to do. They had logistics, retail, and so I wasn't the most important. Midas wasn't their sole focus. There's no way it could be, and so as frustrating as it could be sometimes dealing with that, they were always responsive and always really, always keen to listen to any suggestions or criticisms I had. And when it came to first designing the character, when I needed those changes done, they were done super quickly because they wanted it out while the Kickstarter was still running. And the second iteration of Midas is one that it's the one that's on the card right now. I think he's great. And so, Matt's design brief started it, and then there was a lot of emails. I mean, one email thread alone, I think, has like 42 emails between among the three of us. So they gave me a lot of room to decide how things were going to be. I had general concepts, but it was really them. One of the things that it just kind of worked out is that I wanted him to look slightly anachronistic for whatever reason.
Right.
And so while they all kind of look the same, Midas does look slightly different than the rest of than the guild.
He is definitely doing his own thing. He doesn't have an apron. I think that's the big thing about Midas is that he, whether that was an early idea or a late idea, that he's the one guy without an apron makes it really stand out.
Speaking of that, another really great thing about the process was that I think it was pretty unexpected. I just got an email from Sherwin, and he says, "Hey, I'm planning on writing your fluff. Like, do you have any suggestions? Do you want to write anything?" And he actually let me write. I wrote a couple pages, and some of that stuff. He worked what he had in. He reworked some other stuff, but some of little bits and pieces of what I had written actually made it into the rule book. But I had wanted to explain that the reason why, and anyone who's read the rulebook sees that, is Midas just doesn't care. Like that's why he doesn't use an apron. He doesn't care. I mean, part of it is like, okay, well, I destroyed this suit. Well, I'll just generate some more gold and buy another one. But it's just a matter of there's a certain level of aloofness.
Yeah,
like he does his own thing, and he's not worried about safety or really anything else. does what he needs to do. It's just like when I airbrush. I know I'm supposed to put on the mask and set up the spray booth, but sometimes you just want to paint really quickly, so you just whip out the airbrush and you spray in the open air, and you breathe in the fumes and hope for the best.
So art imitates life.
Yeah.
So at what point in the process did you start seeing the 3D render work?
That actually was really late in the process. They had initially projected that they were going to get done the main teams first, and they would start on us around July. And I remember July coming and them saying like, "Hey guys, we're not off track, but we still have a lot of other stuff to do. So just hang tight." But so the bottom line is I've been in touch with Russ throughout. And I've been working with Matt and Rich about possible ideas for the pose. And the initial pose I wanted was this kind of, if you imagine like Little Mac from Punch-Out doing like that jumping super uppercut, or like a Muhammad Ali, like kind of ducking a punch and also knocking someone out in the same motion. Well, the problem is twofold. One, it's a guy on a base, who's like it's frozen in time, and two, there's no other person on the base or accessories. It's so hard to convey motion. Like you're not putting motion, you're not sculpting in motion lines, so that it just doesn't convey. Like I wanted to convey like finesse and power, to show that Midas is quick and he's going to hit you really hard with that metal arm. But it just didn't. It just wasn't coming out right. Like I tried finding different pictures and poses, and it just wasn't working. And part of it, I came to realize through conversation with Matt, is that because he's fully clothed, like you don't have that musculature. You don't see how the muscles flex and tense. And so where you see like a boxer in just a pair of shorts punching, like you're seeing his legs, you're seeing the power going up, up his foot through his legs, that the tense turn torso, you don't see any of that. It's just a guy in a vest. So we scrapped that later on, and they were really great about it because Russ had done some work in that pose and it wasn't really working. But, we kind of started over, and I remember getting this email from, I don't remember if it was Matt or Rich, but I said, can we start from the drawing board? And they said to me, those are the last words we really like to hear as designers, especially this late in the process. But I had suggested the Iron Man 3-point landing, which eventually turned into the retail pose. And that they sent me a render pretty quickly when it was time to work on Midas, and I think that came out really well. And then for the Kickstarter alternative, I suggested the Tyler Durden pose from the Fight Club poster,
right?
Which I also think came out really well. Now, getting to this, one of the things I will touch on, which is an important part of this process, is that, because and for anyone who doesn't know me or hasn't seen me, like he looks a lot like me. and Russ had mentioned this in your podcast previously. Jack, there's a little bit of Andy in there, but there's some Michael Chiklis and some other stuff going on there. Stoker doesn't look like it. It doesn't look at all like the guy who backed Stoker. Tower looks like him, but I don't know to what extent. And I think Russ might have worked on my figure first. But I started getting some criticism about the model, and this was before Guild Ball went retail. And
it was based on the render, not on the actual model. And
I remember someone like saying they didn't like his face, and I'm thinking that's my face. Like, you can tell me you don't like his pose. That's fine. Like, you can say, like, well, I don't like his pose, or I don't think Midas would do that. But you're like, I don't like his face. It's like, that's a person. This person has feelings. And that actually was pretty rough, like, just when I started seeing that. And then I might have made more of it than I was, because there wasn't, like, a ton of that criticism, but more criticism did follow. Most people were hard on the Kickstarter pose. They just said, like, it doesn't look natural, it doesn't look right, it looks feminine. And, which, as a brief aside, like, it doesn't really matter if it looks effeminate. Like, that's not, I don't think that's relevant at all. But, be that as it may, started getting criticism. Yeah. But then the game came out, and I don't know if it was that because Midas is now, like, he's definitely top 3 in the game, I would say. I mean, for me personally, I think he's the best, but I'm a little biased. But the criticism stopped, and I don't think it was a coincidence.
Well, I think once people got that figure in their hands and they actually saw what the pose, the way that pose really stood, and you know, it is a figure that is actually a very nice figure to paint. You know, he's got like a casual swagger in that pose. No, I think that it really did I remember there being some people who were saying that they didn't like the Kickstarter pose. And I also remember that sort of going away once people actually had it in their hand. I think the render for Midas that was shown may have just been at an angle that didn't sort of give it its due.
Yeah. I definitely, I heard some of that too, that they just said, like, 2D just doesn't do it justice in seeing it in person. And I do want to say really quickly about that is that one of the things I was keen on in the beginning, because I love painting, is I wanted, like, a great paintable model. Like, I wanted flesh. Like, if you look at Midas, I mean, you have metal. You can do real metallic metal, non-metallic metal. He's got from his arm, you have the gem, which, you know, another challenge for painting. You have OSL because the gem generates its own light. You have the liquid in the alchemy bottles. You have leather. You have fabric. You have skin tone. I was like, I really wanted to make sure that, like, everything interesting to paint was on this model. And I think that's one thing that they did a really great job on, where there's these advanced techniques where you can really make the model pop. Like they just showed the studio version of Midas, who looks great. And you can paint him with these advanced techniques, but you can also, I mean, you could skip a lot of that stuff. Like I painted one up quickly, and it's not, you know, I just threw some metallic paint on his arm, but it's still, you know, it's a model that can look really great without a lot of work. But has all those various facets to him where he's, you know, there's so much going on, but it also blends really well. And that's something that I was insistent upon in the beginning. Not that there was no, I'd say assistant, like, there was no resistance. Matt's a painter, and he was, you know, as soon as I told him that, you know, a big thumbs up from him.
Yeah, it is it was a fun team or a fun player for me to paint. And one of the little Easter eggs that's on my Midas is that I actually tried to duplicate some of the tattoos that are on your actual arm.
Yeah.
So I don't know that people know about that, but that's a fun little, I happen to know a little bit more than others, kind of a feature to my guy. But he is fun to paint, and to do, you know, like you said, to have the challenge of making that metal arm still look like an arm, and to you know, to work with those flasks, which, you know, I don't think that I do flasks as well as I wish I did flasks, but it's a fun thing to work on. So it's he is a lot of fun to paint. So I guess that overall and on the end that you know, how do you feel about your likeness? How do you like your little guy?
I think it's great. I mean, every time that, you know, they just released the new. And for those who don't know, Steamforge has a new resin caster, and so they just started casting the retail captains in resin for the first time, and so they released the resin retail pose, and I was like, I guess I need 3 of these.
So yeah, okay. So I guess that's probably the best question to end on. Is exactly how many copies of Midas do you have at this point?
Let's see. I gave one away to Gary from Hot Drop because he didn't have a Kickstarter Midas, so I gave one to him. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 10. I have at least 13, excluding the masters, because I have the metal masters and the resin masters from the Kickstarter.
So you can field a team of yourself.
Yes, I could
excellent.
Have a team of myself, play a team of myself, and have substitutions.
But what skill would they replicate?
There would just be an endless string of replication.
The universe would collapse upon it. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show and sharing your experience with us.
And no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. Anytime.
And for everyone else, if you've painted Midas and you haven't shared it on the forums or on the Facebook groups, find me, send them to me. I love seeing painted Midases. I search every now and again. I look through Twitter, and I always find one or two every now and again. And there's some really interesting takes on them, and I really love seeing them. Even the really kind of crazy ones, like a guy did Midas as if he were Burt Reynolds, which I found very amusing. So please, send them to me. I love seeing them.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
We have probably dug ourselves into yet another hole, but I don't think that we want to not answer any Twitter questions this week. So I think I heard
Twitter questions were kind of popular, so we should answer a couple.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely get we'll get a couple in here though. So let's see. We sort of touched on what goalkeepers were like earlier, and I think that's a big discussion. So let's sort of punt that one, so to speak. So let's see. Andrew Massoura wants to know of our experiences with the post-errata Guild Ball. So, in the last episode, I specifically mentioned that I had played a game as Union and subsequently played a couple of games as Brewers, because I'm really trying. You guys, I'm really trying to play Brewers. I'm just getting my hat handed to me over and over again. I can't do it. I've had people come on the show to teach me how to play Brewers. I have played them time and again. I can't do it. I'm losing heinously. Has nothing to do with the errata at this point.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know why I can't do it. It's a mess. It's just a big mess. So,
meanwhile, in 6 games, I'm at 8 games with my Brewers.
Yeah.
I'm about ready to swap around a little bit. I'm really comfortable with them. They don't perform quite as well as my Union for me, but I think that's just their play style.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I know it's their play style.
Right.
Anyways,
so what I'll say as far as the specific question of post-errata Guild Ball, I found that the change to Avarice felt right. Hitting him on a 3 instead of a 2, it felt right. Playing with the Union players that were specifically targeted, I can't say that I wasn't playing Decimate. That's a big caveat there, because much like I can't play Brewers, I can't play Decimate. But Gutter, Hemlock, Fangtooth, they all felt really good. I mean, I don't feel like in that Union lineup, and I know Bill, you might disagree with me here, but I don't feel like they've taken that big of a hit, and I still think Gutter and Hemlock are first team choices for the Union, and anybody else who can take them. They're still good dang players. Let's see what else. But I've not played against the Fish post change, and I've not played with or against Alchemist post change. I feel like that's the other team that we really need to take a look at. But having experience with the Union players in various combinations, be they as support for other teams or as a free roster themselves, I still don't feel like the errata has really hit me positive or negative. Like I said on the last show that a lot of those changes I could take or leave, and I still kind of feel like I can take or leave a lot of them. So
This game has too many dice, too many points of interaction, and too many layers for a couple of numbers to make that big of a difference. So, I mean, and we could have a huge discussion about then why do it and that sort of thing.
You're just trying to avoid letting me make my comments. And
all right, so have at it.
Good. Now,
I'll be quiet now.
Now, I will caveat by saying there are claims that I don't know how to play the game and I need to learn more. That said, I will remind you, I disagree with you. If you remember, the biggest thing I didn't like about these changes, I felt that the vast majority of them were unnecessary, that they weren't going to make a change. And I think you're experiencing exactly what I was saying, right? There just wasn't a need. I have played several games since the errata. In fact, I played when we got the errata early to review it for the show. I had already started playing with the changes. I've been playing Union still as my primary team. I pulled out what I would consider my competitive Union team. It didn't change at all, and it played exactly the same. I made minor adjustments to Decimate. I made a minor adjustment. I ran into one situation with Mist where I couldn't first turn tackle. Instead, and this is what ended up happening. Instead of first turn tackling, spending an influence to where'd he go away and shooting to make the goal, now I first turn tackled, first turned attacked, a second attack to trigger where'd they go and shot and made the goal.
Yeah.
There was no difference there in the end result, right? The end result in this case was no different whatsoever. I could have rolled just as badly worrying about the 3 successes as I could have rolled worrying about the 1 success before. All of the contingencies are still there.
Right. But I do feel like the power arc on those players has been rolled back a little bit, but they have not been gimped.
That's fair. I don't feel like the power arc moved at all.
Okay.
With that, maybe a lot of it had to do with my style of play and that it didn't make that big of a difference. So here's the one sort of odd story, if you will. Fangtooth. So I was rolling Fangtooth out for one reason before. I still roll him out for this reason, which is easy access to knockdown in the Union. He is my knockdown player.
Right.
So I still am not at the point. I'm still not seeing it. And again, I say this, maybe it's probably my play style, but I'm still not seeing the benefit to Fangtooth unless I want that easy knockdown. Funny enough, in the entire game I played him, every time I wanted Gluttonous Mass to come into play, I was moving. So, because I was advancing, and I really wanted Gluttonous Mass, where Gluttonous Mass would have helped me was on parting blows and things along those lines to open up different charge lanes for me. It didn't help me.
Right, because it doesn't.
Yeah. Now, did it change what my opponent went after when he was looking at attacking me? I think it did, because my opponent, instead of burning an attack into him, which was going to be wasted, usually looked for other things to do. So Gluttonous Mass, just by its existence, shifted my opponent's playstyle.
Yeah, I found that as well. But it doesn't shift a lot. It shifts one die roll. Yeah.
It's not only does it shift one die roll, it actually, in a lot of cases, I think pushed. I don't know. It's almost like it was equally bad had they attacked me and I didn't have Gluttonous Mass, because most of the people trying to attack me weren't going to knock me down.
Yeah.
Right. I had positioned well enough that they didn't have the knockdown guys near me. So I was going to knock them down on a counterattack, or they were already in and were going to cause the damage no matter what.
Yeah. I will say all in all, my impression though is that the positive changes, that the players who were improved
have a bigger impact on what I've seen than the players who were degraded. Because I do feel like Gluttonous Mass, I mean, it's not the biggest deal ever, but it's a thing, you know, it comes into, it figures into the game somehow. And I feel like the armor buff on Avarice definitely made him feel more sturdy. It made him more of a
the defense buff.
Of a defense buff. Yeah. So I think that we're going to see that those big guys who got those little buffs are going to feel like they were changed more than the players who got something taken away. With the caveat being that I have not played Fisherman since the change. Those guys are probably feeling it pretty hard.
And that's the funny thing for me, right? I faced Brick.
Yeah.
Brick with Tough Hide. It didn't really. Was great, but it didn't factor into my playstyle because I wasn't already focusing on Brick. He was already in a void and workaround target for me. I haven't played Avarice yet, so I got to get him back onto the table. He hasn't been in my lineup for a while, so that's a good thing. I haven't played Fisherman. This is the first time I've gone 2 full weeks without playing Fisherman. So, nobody in my area has been playing Alchemist. All the Alchemist players still have Alchemist coming. I'm trying to think of, I was the one playing Snakeskin in one case, so I watched a game with Snakeskin, so I got to see the clone change, and I think with clone, we locally weren't using clone, quote unquote, right anyways, or clone has a bigger impact
you weren't
on the
exploiting
Alchemists.
clone, as the case may be.
Well, right. So, so that's not going to change our playstyle. And Colossus. My Engineers player I didn't play against in this past 2 weeks either, so I didn't get to see Colossus on the table.
Sure.
So, I've been
It's
hit or
still
miss as
shaken
well.
out. Yeah. I will say that it's probably telling that the discussion has largely chilled in most respects. I mean, there are a couple of interesting topics that won't die. But
I think some of that has to do with the change of the forums, though, because the topic was going hot and heavy on the old forum, and I think people just didn't want to. My read is people didn't want to revive it on the new forum, and when the old forum closed, those topics died with it. But they were going right up until the forum closed.
Perhaps I know that had I had something to say, I would not have let something so. Conveniently timed as the forum changed,
right?
To be conspiratorial.
See, and I know people are reading it because I was following the thread talking about those changes. So I was getting email updates right up until the forum stopped sending them out. And I kind of got the feeling, I could be wrong, but I kind of got the feeling that the move to the new forums, the people who were having the heated discussion on the old forums felt like they had said their piece. And I know I was at that. I mean, there's a couple places where I could have responded to, well, there's a couple places I have responded. There's other places I could have put my 2 cents in, and I sort of went, I already said something about this, even though it's not on this forum. I'll let this one go.
Yeah, but, and I will say, regardless of the volume or the location of the discussion, I was very pleased with the fact that overall I think that the community showed a lot of maturity around this whole thing. There were I didn't see any rage quits. I didn't see any nerd rage. I saw some people who had something to say.
Yep. But
nobody said it in a way that anybody should be regretting. And I think that we should all feel good about ourselves for having a community that is able to go through a change the rules of our game without making an ass of ourselves.
Yeah, that's a nice thing.
Yeah, because I see a lot of games that don't achieve that.
So what's our next question, Phil?
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up one last question. And we're gonna turn to Lee Parry, who asked us if the season 2 mascots will fulfill a purpose. And so I think what he's asking here is if they're going to fill holes in the team or in gameplay. And I will say that I really don't think that we're going to see a case where the season 2 mascots are going to be keystone players, because the one thing that I can guarantee you that the designers are extremely aware of is that they do not want the season 2 mascots to permanently bench the season 1 mascots. And in a lot of teams, I'm sure that there are people who are sitting there saying, I hate this mascot. I can't wait for the new mascot. The new mascot is going to be so much better than that dang otter, because it's always you fishermen guys. You guys hate Salt. I don't understand you guys.
I'm not a fisherman player. I hate Salt too.
Salt is a fast little bugger.
He's a rat. Yeah, he's a rat. Paint him black.
But I come from a pro rat household, so we're good here. But you're not going to get a mascot that makes nobody ever play Salt again. And you're not going to get a mascot that makes nobody ever play Princess again. You're not going to get a mascot that makes nobody ever play Marbles again. And I could go through the other 5, but that's not the design goal. The design goal is for the new mascot to do something different, not something better. And I think that a success in the design of these new mascots will be that if you track rosters over time, you're going to see 50% using season 1 mascots, 50% using season 2 mascots. It should be a choice that is cosmetic or tactical, but never a predetermined outcome. So, if you've got a mascot in your team that currently feels like it underperforms, expect the new mascot to similarly underperform, unless it's just got some niche role that your, I don't want to say mistaken play style, but your similarly niched play style would happen to support very well. So, I mean, I'm sure that there will be cases out there where the new mascot suits certain people amazingly well, but expect that to be sort of a snowflake outcome. I think that you're going to see mascots who very closely mimic the.
But I think it'll happen just as much. It'll happen just as much as it does now. I'm sure there's some of the current mascots that fit certain niche playstyles very well. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see the same thing. This is sort of like we got this is sort of like we got that question early on. What do we think? What players do we think the season 2 players will bench, or something along those lines? Same answer.
Yeah.
Right. It's not in the design theory of the game for that to happen.
Right.
And so far, season 2 has held solid with the design theory of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, and we talked about that an hour and a half ago.
Right.
And how the season 2 players were impressing us by not being auto includes. And that's where these mascots are going to fall as well. So
now I am a little concerned, about some of them. I have high hopes, but there's a couple of mascots right now that I am very comfortable with. And I'm not really sure how to replace them, or I am intrigued to see what they end up being replaced with. Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, and we could be having this exact same conversation about the captains. Everything we've just said applies equally to the new captains. So
exactly.
And while I can't imagine replacing Honor, man, Hammer must be something awesome. So we'll see. So, yeah. So, thanks for the questions, guys. I know that there were a bunch more than that, but we're looking at like a 2.5 hour show at this point. So we will hopefully get to more in the next one. So
Anyway, I think we are going to go ahead and wrap it up there. So, Bill, thank you for coming out tonight and having a chat with us all.
And Phil, thank you. And you know, I just want to just put it out there. If you have the chance to teach me how to play Guild Ball, I am in the market to learn this game.
Don't look at me, man. I am not a good teacher. So, and I reserve the right to claim to be an effective player.
And this is, see, and I waited all the way to the end so you can cut this out, but I understand, Brutus.
Man, rough. All I said was that you're a big boy. That's all I said.
Well, and as I put it out to them, you did not lie. I am a big boy.
Exactly. All right, very good. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
You got to leave that in.
I probably will.
Knees up. Watch the knives. To join the conversation, comment on the show post at guildballtonight.com or email us at guildballtonight@gmail.com. Phil can also be heard on the Game Punting podcast. Bill can also be heard on the Gamers Lounge podcast. Check them out on iTunes.
Also, feel free to give us 5 stars on iTunes. Every little bit helps. But when you do, don't write a review of the show. No. Instead, just tell everybody why you love Flint so very much. The following events are all coming shortly. The St. Louis Open in St. Louis, USA, November 15th, 2015. More information at tiebreak.co.uk. The Scaldix Shield at the Northwest Game Center in Stockport, UK, November 14th and 15th. Find out more on the Guild Ball Informer YouTube channel. Mace Convention Demos in Charlotte, North Carolina on November 14th, 2015. More information on the Charlotte area Miniature Gamers Facebook page. The WCWW Winter Wreath in Stockton, UK, December 12th, 2015. More information on the Guild Ball forums. I Shoot Better After a Beer in Taunton, UK, on January 31st, 2016. More information in the Guild Ball forums. And Crucible Orlando in Orlando, Florida, March 12th and 13th, 2016. More information in the Guild Ball forums. If you'd like us to mention an event near you, drop us an email at guildballtonight@gmail.com with the information on what, when, where, and how to get more information, and we will include it. And now for this week's edition of the Guild Ball Club Roundup. To get your club included in this list, send us an email at guildballtonight@gmail.com. Include the name, location, and best contact method, and we'll get you in the next show. You'll need to resubmit your club about every 3 episodes, so keep that in mind. Armada Games in Tampa, Florida. Find them at armadagames.com. South London Wargamers in London, UK. Find them at slwargamers.club. Chelmsford Bunker in Chelmsford, UK. Leeds Night Owls in Leeds, UK. Find those 2 on Google. 1066 Wargaming in Hastings, UK. Capital Guild Ball at Dream Wizards in Rockville, Maryland. 2-6 Wargaming in Cambridge, UK. Warhammer Gaming Club in Sunderland, UK.
Siege Tabletop in Beverly, UK, Sheffield and Rotherham Games Club in Sheffield, UK, Group North Wargaming Society in Adelaide, Australia, War and Peace Gaming Club in Sandiacre, UK, Outpost in Sheffield, UK, Dark Worlds Gaming Society in Fareham, UK, The Dice Saloon in Brighton, UK, Colorado Guild Ball Facebook Group in Denver, Colorado, Our House Games in Monroe, Michigan, and the Middlesbrough Gaming Club in Middlesbrough, UK. Find all of those on Facebook. It is time once again for another installment of Ox's Poetry Corner.
Next show might be live. You think they can pull it off? See you in St. Lou.
In fact, we just got we acquired a fifth rat recently, but that's another story.